Randy?
Update, we just opened this past Monday, a week ago. It was a fairly good week. The weekend was a little slower. Saturday was good, Sunday was bad, today was bad with the snow on the ground. But we got a few things done. Looks like the winter kill on the greens did not happen, but there is some in the fairways, which we anticipate on doing some overseeding there and aerating to get those to recover. And we had an extravaganza meeting Monday evening and got that set in motion for June 6th for our tournament. And so with our opening, I had a few things. Our Golf Now internet system, I contacted them and they put it up on our website so that the people knew we were open. And Minnesota Explorer and Brainerd Dispatch called me, and we also had a couple ads running in the Morrison County Record. And WJJY and St. Cloud called and we got something there. So we had a little update on that, and hopefully everything comes a little bit better. We're open 30 days before we were last year or the year before that, so revenue should be down a little bit. We're short on employees yet until this evening, and then we should be setting a little bit better. I think we're going to be down employees from last year, but that's okay. We'll try and make everything work out. Maybe that can save a little bit on the budget.
So I read in the paper something about that the kitchen ain't gonna open until 1st of May or 2nd May or what?
It usually is the 1st of May through September, but it probably won't be that because I only have 2 cooks and they're both in teaching school until May 27th. So it'll be Tuesdays and Wednesday evenings. So unless I cook it, but I'm kind of stretched now. So we'll probably run our special events, and otherwise our normal kitchen hours are 11 till 3 Monday through Friday. Special events and Tuesday and Wednesday evenings.
Anybody got any questions? Karen, Randy?
Can you turn that on?
Yep. I've got, we just wanted to give the council a better idea of kind of how municipal golf courses operate and what their profit and losses are throughout the state of Minnesota. There's 41, or there were years ago, I don't know if there's that many yet, but there probably still are about 40 municipal golf courses in the state of Minnesota. And back in 2011, 6 made a profit. So municipal courses, just golf courses, aren't necessarily profitable operations. However, there's a couple of stories that I pulled up off the internet. One was in the St. Paul paper, and it talks about the facility being an amenity to the community and not necessarily of the council requiring them to necessarily make a profit. They'd like it to break even. I've got a bunch of information that we pulled off of the state auditor's office and also information from our local audit as well. And I just wanted to put that up for you have to turn around to see it, unfortunately. And just to give you and the rest of the public just a general idea of kind of how the operation is like. I mentioned the information from the Twin Cities newspaper was in it by Bob Shaw, actually, of the St. Paul Pioneer Press, and just give you an idea and these were numbers from 2011. Make this bigger, of course. Zoom this in for you.
Greg, is that switch behind?
Give you some ideas of how much some of the 10 in the metro area
I've got a lot bigger area to draw from, but some of the losses that some of these courses were seeing back from 2011, you see Beaver Grove Heights of over $500,000, Buffalo over $500,000, Anoka about $500,000, Chaska almost $500,000. I mean, it talks about the huge amount of losses going on, and these are 10 in the Twin Cities area. Brooklyn Center being the lowest amount at 92,000. I wanted to show some of the information about the Little Falls course. And what's happened over the last number of years. Let me break this into two halves so it makes it a little more legible, I suppose, from a size standpoint. But these are the audited numbers from 2000 up to from 2000 here until 2014. Now we don't have the 2014 numbers, but 2000 to 2013 shows a total profit between of those years to the city of $52,182. Now this is a revenue expense, and it does not include depreciation, so it's just the cash in and out of that operation. But you can see, a lot of losses. In 2012, we actually had a net profit for it, if you don't include depreciation. You got some pretty big ones here back in 2002, 2003, and a nice big one starting in 2000. So just in these last 2000 through 2013, you got income over expense, if you don't include depreciation, of over $52,000. Now this is revenue expense on a cash basis, and Lori can give you a better idea of exactly what this one shows.
Right, so that is our cash basis just in the operating fund. So, the reports that the council gets every month that shows the activity in the golf course, and then at the end of the year, that just looks at the operating fund and strictly on a cash basis. Whereas the ones up on top were audited basis. So that would include any assets, liabilities, it would include payables, receivables, and it would mesh all of that stuff together. Whereas what I report on a monthly basis to the council is just strictly on a cash basis, and that's what the bottom numbers show.
So the bottom ones show no inventory, nothing.
Right, they
Nothing
don't
in
show
that order.
inventory, they don't show any assets, any major purchases, any of that, that kind of stuff. It's just strictly cash and just strictly operating. It doesn't include anything that's happened in the improvement fund.
And we also had talked about, I think at your last meeting, where our balances were. You've got an operating fund balance of the negative, and this goes from beginning of time, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then the improvement fund, you made some pretty major improvements a number of years ago, and that's about $203,000. So the total is about $525,000 in the negative, and that's a running total from the start of the operation. I wanted to give you also an idea of where we're at from the standpoint of our green fees. And it shows Eagles Landing, Pine Ridge, Oak Hill, Walk Prairie, that's 2014, and then where Little Falls is at. We're 9 walking, 9 with a cart, 18 holes walking, 18 holes with a cart. I think we're running a sale or something now, that's why the numbers are a little different there.
Spring special, yes, to try and drive some business in. And I think they all are. That's their standard fees out of their I think Oak Hill is, and so is Eagles Landing. They have a twilight rate and a spring season rate.
Anyway, you can see where we're at from the standpoint, just look at the 18-hole, or hole, I guess. We also included what we could out of Sartell and the 2 courses at Sartell. But anyway, it shows where we are from the standpoint of if you had 18 holes with a cart, we're at 36. You see Eagles at 39, Pine Ridge at 46, Oak Hill at 38. So we're right in the ballpark. 9 with a cart, again, right in the ballpark of the others in the area. And then we wanted to look at total membership. dues here again, a lot of different categories, single family, senior couple in college. If you look at either the single or the family rate, to give you an idea of where we are, Little Falls as compared to some of these other operations in the kind of competition in the area. And I know Randy looks at these.
I do, they're all on the internet, and I had them wrote down for this meeting if somebody was to ask, yes.
And then just finally, I wanted to, as I talked about earlier, kind of what courses are doing, municipal courses are doing across the state of Minnesota. I'll zoom this out just a little bit more and get everybody in here. It's going to give you an idea. And the W's down there, we can't do much. But anyway, starting with Anoka, at the top, I just wanted to mention the revenue expense income, and these are state auditors' numbers. The numbers won't be exactly the same as what I put up earlier, just because of the way the state auditor requires us to report and requires everybody else to report. But I just wanted to show you from an operating. I've got operating here, and then the other one is non-operating. Just to give you an idea, with other municipal courses around the state, take a look at the number of negatives that are in this operation. I think we counted 6 out of the 30-something.
35.
6 out of the 35 that actually had some numbers. You saw the story about peers, so they're listed here, and all the rest of them that we could pull up. Now Cottage Grove, you probably remember that one. They were at the top of the list of the St. Paul Dispatch or Pioneer Press story. Cottage Grove was 159,000 loss. So their numbers just didn't show up in the state auditor's report yet for some reason or the other. But and then if you do the non-operating, I think how many? Like,
4, I think.
Like 4 out of the 30-some that actually showed a profit. So, it's not unusual. I know it's frustrating. I know that we'd like to see a profit. I know I get the impression sometimes that some members of the public think, why can't you make a profit? I mean, this should be simple. This should be easy. Well, it's not. I mean, I know Becker, the city of Becker had 2 in the last probably dozen years, 2 different times they had professional consultants come in and give them recommendations on the operations of that golf course. And here they are, 282 or 300, about $300,000 in the hole. So it's not like it's you do a couple things and bam, you can start making money. You can see the Little Falls operation. Remember, that shows depreciation in these numbers. So this is the number. What was that one? 21,000 from the.
That's non-operating revenue, so it's like donations, interest income, that kind of stuff.
Probably extravaganza anyway. So our numbers are there. But anyway, I wanted to try to give a little perspective of golf courses in the state of Minnesota that are municipally operated, and the types of situations that these courses are in all across the state. We're not doing great. We're not doing terrible. Take depreciation out of here. We can do that with the rest of them, I'm sure. But that's where we are. If you have any questions, Randy's around and try to answer them if you can.
Dan, and Mr. President, I've got a couple of comments. I've had a couple of people approach me and talk about our menu. And Lori, didn't you say that came out of speaking with the small business development out of Brainerd, and that was a suggestion because we were looking for ways to try to be more profitable. So the hours and the menu was suggested by them. Correct?
Correct.
And the second comment I would have, contrary to what was stated tonight, I have been studying this, and I believe that was part of either the statute or law or whatever I seem to be violating. But I have been studying with it. We did meet on that, Dan and I did. I spoke to Lori about that. And I did have a couple of ideas, and what I would like to see us do, Mr. Boyne was one that suggested that they come up with a plan and by May 17th or whatever, and I would suggest, I would be willing to present a couple of these ideas either at a work session or at another time in discussions with Dan. They're just ideas that I think where we could potentially delete the advisory group, but still have a way to handle certain concerns or issues. And I would like to see if possible, and Mr. Boyne would be agreeable, maybe next meeting, discuss it at the work session so we can all have input on it and probably put this to rest much sooner than what we have planned. But
If you're okay with that, without objection, I'll go ahead and put it on the agenda for continued discussion. The reason to have Randy here, I kind of wanted to get the council thinking as though they are the advisory committee. You are ultimately in charge of that operation over there. So you need to hear what's going on. You need to hear from Randy what's happening, where we're at. We talked about winter kill, we talked about cooks, we talked about some of those things. I mean, it may be detailed minutia that maybe you're not really used to, but it operates like the advisory committee. And I plan to have Randy here at the first meeting and here in April, first meeting in May, and just to give you an update on where things are at. Okay, in May we'll talk about the cooks are here, or they're not, or wherever we're at. The greens are coming in, everything's looking good, mowers are operating, whatever. But my intent was to try to get you thinking like, okay, we're the advisory committee, we're in charge. Rather than running it through another step in the process. Now, I know one of the things that you talked about, we can come up with at the next meeting, we can talk about some ideas to work with Randy and the golf course operation and bring things to the council as quickly as possible through this process.
Well, I've heard all this before. Seems like every year when we bring up the golf course, it's same old song and dance. I hear it every year. The thing that concerns me is we are losing money, and there's a lot of other issues in town that I feel are pretty important that we need to take care of. What outweighs what? It's nice to have a golf course, no doubt, but it's also nice to have some of these roads taken care of and some of the other issues we're going to be facing. We're dealing with trying to set up a wellhead protection site. We have to deal with our waste treatment plant big time here. We have to start being more concerned about some of them things. As far as the golf course, I feel it's important, but not as important as what we're trying to place it as. And we need to deal with getting some kind of commission in place, some kind of group of people that actually sit down and take care of this. We haven't had that. It seems like our advisory board, I've heard everything from Randy didn't show up, that's why meetings are canceled. Jeremy would come back, he'd be the only person. I mean, it would have been a very strong group if, they could have even had meetings without Randy there. But if you're going to have a group, it should be one that actually works, not just a figurehead, not something out there that we say we have it and we're meeting our code, or something that's actually useful would be nice. And if Greg comes up with some ideas pertaining to that, I'm happy. But I do feel we need to do something out there. When I went around campaigning for Kathy, and I'm sure Greg heard the same stuff, there's a lot of people in this town that are not too happy with the way the golf course is being run. I've even heard accusations that the council keeps sliding this thing back, we keep covering up, Are we in on the take? I've heard them kind of responses from people. I've heard it all, you know, Randy, maybe if we get a new guy in there, things work better. But it is an issue and we do have to deal with it. And I'm gonna push on this thing as hard as I can to make sure it's done right as far as I can. And I'm looking forward to this thing being taken care of and laid down for a while too. We have other issues, so that's about it.
You know, I guess I'm the guy that made the motion to table this. Maybe I should start by apologizing for being late here this evening. I was attending a family funeral out of town and things extended a little longer than I thought they would. But it's a case where I guess I have two concerns, which I shared when I made the motion. I find it really unusual that a group over a period of many months, like 30 months and 2.5 years, with 5 people on the board, could not at any point get 3 people to meet. There has to be a reason for that. And I guess, and I am not interested in pointing fingers and exacting punishment. I am interested in determining what the problem was so that we can fix it and get on to other things. And my other concern is that when you make a change, I believe you should have something of equal or greater value to put in its place. So that when we pull that ordinance, if we just cancel that out, I'm concerned about what happens if we don't have anything in its place. And whatever that is, it could be a simple sentence that says, okay, the 5 major items that the ordinance covered will now be covered by gray, or something like that, so that we get something in writing so we know where we are. But to just cancel that without really knowing some of these other things, I don't think is a wise move. And I think Greg's comments relative to getting together, discussing some of these options, that's a good one. And I think we should go with that.
Anybody else got any comments, concerns?
I agree with you, Frank. When I was out, the most common question I was asked is, what are you gonna do about the golf course when you get in? I says, I don't know. I'm only one person. I don't understand what's the matter with it, what has to be done to get it fixed, where is the biggest problem, concern. But I was approached by more people, and even since I've been on the council, I get approached at least once or twice a week. What are they doing with the golf course? When is that gonna come around? When is it gonna get squared away? We've been on this issue, golf course, for year after year after year, and nothing ever seems to change. And I said, well, I think we're gonna work on it. You're gonna find something out this year. Something's gonna change. We've gotta change something. We can't just let it keep dragging along, because it seems like nothing ever changes. It's just the same as it was last year, same as it was the year before. And I definitely think something has to be done instead of just beating a horse to death.
Well, Mr. President, the one comment I would have that was rather enlightening what Dan put on the board there, and you look at, wanting to spend money on other things that show that is losing about $250,000 a year, and I'm sure they can use some infrastructure there too. And it might be just getting to the bottom of everything and finding out we're going to have to accept it as not a profit generator. Obviously, there's 29 out of the 35 golf courses that at this point are realizing that. And sometimes it's not whether or not you're losing money, it's how you're losing money. And if we can justify that everything's being done that's possible, then we have to decide, do we want to keep it as a $25,000 a year investment? Is that worth it to us? Or can we trim a little bit off of that? It could be to the point where it may never be a profit generator. And then we want to close close it down, that's gonna be a tough discussion.
We always, we don't bring up depreciation on the property. Someday, that's gonna catch us. We're gonna have to do some major improvements because we're supposed to be keeping this money to the side in case if any improvements are needed. We have nothing in the coffers for that. We always put depreciation to the side. That should be considered one of the losses we're taking here. The building itself needs repair, the grounds needs repair. Where's that money gonna come from? You know, we're spending out $25,000 now, but that's a little portion of what it's gonna cost to maintain this course in the future here.
One thing too is that I guess I'd like to say that I am not opposed, I am not philosophically opposed to our kicking in $20,000 to make this work. You read in the record that Piers levied over $20,000 for their golf course. I don't know if that figured into their profit margin or not, but it's a case where, you know, you can get nitpicky on a lot of things, but it's a case where I think that if we decide as a council to put that kind of money into it, let's do that on purpose and say, yes, this is what we believe for a community that it's going. Simply because, you know, we put more than that into other areas. We put like 110 into the zoo, we put like 25 or more into the Animal Humane Society. We give to the library, senior citizens. So as a part of city operation, those are expenses that are out there. So I am not philosophically opposed to contributing toward the success of the golf course because I believe it is a worthwhile asset for our community. But it's something that I guess I'm concerned about the operation aspect of it. To get it organized to where we know what we're doing, we agree that that's what it is. So when we are approached on the street, we can say, yes, we've decided this, this, and this.
So we'd like to get this on the next planning agenda and you guys want Randy back here for questions or concerns or?
Personally, I don't think it's necessary. I've heard a lot from Randy and reports and everything, pretty much understand that. I think it's, like you were saying, we just need to deal with it and move on.
Okay. You guys got questions but don't want the superintendent here to understand what's going on. Property maintenance code?
Wait a minute, you ask a question
Right.
and then I give you an answer and then you kind of cut me down like that.
I ain't cutting anybody down. We want to get the golf course going forward. It's
Keep it where it is and we'll go from that point.
property maintenance code, Dan.
The two